Chicago Fire has been on the air for 13 years and has many great moments, but nothing could ever beat the last 5 minutes of one memorable finale. The NBC procedural drama has certainly had its ups and downs over the years. However, when Chicago Fire is at its best, the audience is reminded of how great it can truly be. Unfortunately, it's quite unlikely that the original One Chicago TV show will ever recapture the same magic it possessed during its earlier seasons. Fans can still go back and watch the highlights, though. And if anyone who loves Chicago Fire wants to relive its best moments, they should begin with a finale from 8 years ago. Season 5's last scene perfectly represents Chicago Fire. The cliffhanger ending is iconic. Across Chicago Fire's 13 seasons and 274 episodes, the series is about 11,500 minutes, an estimate, given that the average episode is 42 minutes. However, when debating its best moment, it's easy to single out the Season 5 finale. At the hour's end, Casey, Mouch, and Herman were trapped in a fire, and it didn't look like the Chicago Fire characters would survive. The stakes were higher than ever. Mouch had a heart attack with Herman beside him, and Casey couldn't find an exit as the fire raged around him. On the outside, Cruz used his radio to plead with Mouch to get up, but Herman couldn't get him to respond. Then, Casey had a heartbreaking goodbye with Gabby. He told her, Chicago Fire Season 5, Episode 22, appropriately titled My Miracle, cut to black after Matt's goodbye to Gabby. So viewers had to wait months to find out what happened next, in true Chicago Fire fashion. However, that's not the only reason why these particular 5 minutes perfectly represent the show. When Chicago Fire is great, it can completely capture the audience's attention, and that's exactly what My Miracle's last 5 minutes did. 3 important characters were in severe danger, and Matt and Gabby's heartbreaking conversation was completely devastating. It also helps that it takes place in a fire. No one could ever forget that scene after watching it. The Chicago Fire Season 5 finale is the show's best episode. My Miracle has the highest IMDb rating. The Season 5 finale is considered by many to be Chicago Fire's best episode, and that's mostly because of its last scene. Its IMDb rating is even the series' best. It sits at 9.0, proving how loved it is. My Miracle simply encompasses all the great qualities of Chicago Fire, and any future episode likely won't be able to top it. Chicago Fire Season 14 premieres on Wednesday, October 1st, at 9 p.m. Eastern Time on NBC. Enjoy Screen Rant's primetime coverage? Click below to sign up for our weekly Network TV newsletter. Make sure to check Network TV in your preferences, and get the inside scoop from actors and showrunners on your favorite series. After 13 years of firehouse drama, heartbreak, and the kind of adrenaline-packed rescues that keep viewers glued to their screens, Chicago Fire has gifted us countless unforgettable moments. But if there's one sequence that still burns brightest in fans' memories, it's the finale that gave us the show's most perfect 5 minutes. And what makes this particular stretch of television so legendary isn't just the raw action or even the shocking twist that had everyone's jaws on the floor. It's the way those few minutes encapsulated the heart, soul, and DNA of Chicago Fire itself, a show that has always been about more than the flames it battles. To understand why those 5 minutes remain untouchable more than a decade later, you have to peel back the layers of what made Chicago Fire resonate in the first place. The grit of firefighters putting their lives on the line, the chosen family dynamic at Firehouse 51, and the emotional stakes that tie the audience to the characters like they're part of the family. The lead-up to this finale moment had been carefully building for an entire season, with relationships hanging by a thread, career choices looming in the distance, and the perpetual question of who might not make it out alive hanging in the background. Chicago Fire has never been shy about pulling the rug from under its audience. Fans still remember the heartbreak of losing Leslie Shea, the suspense of Casey's career crossroads, or the near-fatal rescues that left the firehouse forever changed. But this particular 5-minute stretch of the finale brought everything together in a way that felt like lightning in a bottle. The perfect storm of emotional payoff, edge-of-your-seat suspense, and a reminder that in this universe, nothing is guaranteed except loyalty and sacrifice. The moment itself plays out almost like a microcosm of the show's identity. It begins quietly, deceptively ordinary, with the firefighters responding to what looks like a routine call. The audience breathes for a moment, thinking maybe, just maybe, this finale won't tear their hearts apart the way others have. But then the tone shifts, the music swells, and the camera lingers on subtle details. A shared glance between two characters who have been through hell together. A rookie firefighter clenching his jaw as if sensing what's about to happen. The sudden silence before the chaos. And then, in an instant, the rescue spirals into something far more dangerous than anyone expected. Flames burst where there should have been smoke. A structure groans under the weight of collapse. And suddenly the firefighters are trapped in a situation that feels hopeless. But here's the magic. Instead of focusing solely on the spectacle of fire and debris, the show zeroes in on the characters. You see Severide, always the steady hand in chaos, barking orders with precision, refusing to let fear dictate his choices. You see Casey, torn between the instinct to protect his team and the duty to save the civilians they came for. You see the wide-eyed panic of newer firefighters learning, in the harshest possible way, what it truly means to put yourself second. And then you see something even more powerful, the unspoken trust between them all. A glance is enough to communicate a plan. A nod is enough to know someone is willing to risk everything. These few minutes are storytelling distilled into its purest form. No exposition, no filler, just raw, emotional truth played out in the middle of chaos. What elevates this moment into the best 5 minutes of Chicago Fire is the way it gives fans both catharsis and heartbreak. You think a character isn't going to make it. You hold your breath as the seconds tick by and the building threatens to take them all down. And then, against all odds, they push through. The camera slows, the score crescendos, and suddenly you're witnessing not just a rescue, but a rebirth. Characters emerge battered, broken, and covered in soot, but alive. And as the smoke clears, you realize this wasn't just about saving lives. It was about reaffirming the core of Firehouse 51. That no matter how bad the odds, they'll walk into fire together, and they'll walk out together. These 5 minutes also carry the weight of everything that came before. You can't watch them without thinking of Shay's tragic loss, of Otis's sacrifice, of Dawson's farewell, or of the countless times characters stood on the edge of life and death. It's like the finale distilled all those years of joy and pain into one perfect sequence, paying homage to the past while pushing the story forward. That's why, even 13 years later, fans look back and say, this was peak Chicago Fire. In the broader scope of television, it's rare for a procedural drama to nail this kind of emotional high-water mark. Many shows fade after a few seasons, leaning on cliches or rehashing old plotlines. But Chicago Fire has always thrived because it balances the larger-than-life spectacle of emergencies with the intimate, personal struggles of its characters. These 5 minutes worked so well because they blended both, the external disaster of the fire and the internal stakes of the characters' relationships and futures. And when you revisit that scene now, years later, it still hits as hard as it did the night it aired. You can know every line, every shot, and still feel your pulse quicken, still feel the lump in your throat, still whisper under your breath. This is why I watch this show. Another reason this finale moment endures is that it became a touchstone for the cast and crew as well. In interviews, many have pointed to it as one of the most grueling but rewarding shoots of the series, with long hours, practical effects, and a commitment to making the danger feel real. The actors weren't just performing, they were embodying the physical and emotional toll of the job. Fans could feel it, and that authenticity made the difference between a good scene and an iconic one. It's also why new seasons and newer finales, while thrilling in their own right, often get compared back to this benchmark. It's the yardstick by which all Chicago Fire finales are measured, and so far, none have surpassed it. And perhaps the most beautiful thing about this 5-minute stretch is that it isn't defined by a single character, it's defined by the ensemble. Sure, Severide and Casey shine, but so do the rookies, the veterans, and even the civilians caught in the chaos. That's been Chicago Fire's strength from the beginning. It's never about one hero, but about a family of heroes who lean on each other when everything is falling apart. Those 5 minutes remind you that while you may tune in for your favorite character, you stay because Firehouse 51 as a whole feels like home. Thanks for watching this video. Please subscribe my sister wives to our channel and stay with TS.